Hey. Welcome to another episode of Evolving Perspectives. My name is Matia Elise, your podcast host, and on this podcast, we dive deep into the stories of everyday people, discussing the hurdles they face and the triumphs they've achieved. We have real, raw conversations where we laugh, we cry, we uncover the incredible resilience within us all. From overcoming personal setbacks to navigating life's unexpected twists, each episode that you tune into is a testament to the human spirit's capacity to persevere and thrive. Tune in as we share moments of vulnerability, inspiration, and ultimately empowerment. Get ready to be uplifted and inspired as we showcase the unwavering strength of the human heart on Evolving Perspectives. Chime in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Evolving Perspective. I am your host, Matia Elise, and I am super excited to share this podcast interview with you. Today's guest is somebody who was very near and dear to my heart. I'm going to try to get through this episode without crying. Number one, because it is my first episode, but also if anybody knows me, they know the depth of the relationship that I have with this person. I am so very proud of the evolution of her existence, how she's become such an amazing wife and mom and just an overall boss babe. She is none other than my niece. And anybody who's ever been around me knows that she's one of my top favorite people. I am so honored, not just to call her my niece, but to call her my friend, to call her my confidant, to call her my supporter, and one that I can truly just turn to for any advice or any just conversations or thoughts. Y'all, this is going to be a real raw conversation. We're going to talk about evolution, the evolution of who she is as a person. I have seen her grow up literally from a baby, right? And I think if you know anything about me, one of the things that I absolutely love, I know everybody has their thing, but I love seeing people evolve. Thus, the name of this podcast, The Evolving Perspective. I love seeing people grow and develop, maximize their potential. Grow into their body, grow into their being, boss up. Like all those things bring me so much joy and gratification. And not just in my own life, but in those who I have surrounded myself with, whether I know them personally or if I know them from afar. It's just one of the things that I absolutely love. And I think what has brought me the most joy in my life now that I'm a middle-aged woman is just seeing how my friends and family members, like I was around when their children were first born. And most of them, their children are now either in high school or in college, who have graduated, are now in their careers. Or even when I look back over my life and the friends that I have, and just seeing how we came from a particular neighborhood and have grown and developed and have our own careers and doing our own thing and really truly living out what some people call the American dream. But today I want to introduce my niece, my heart, my girl, Amaris, to the show. Amaris, I'm so glad you're here today.
I'm glad to be here today too.
And so I'm going to ask you a few questions. First of all, I'm just so proud of you because you my girl. You just my girl. And I think one of the best relationships, if anybody knows me again, they know that I'm all about relationship, right? And one of the relationships that I really value is a relationship that I have and I've seen between a niece and an aunt. Because it's a real unique relationship.
It is.
Because it's kind of like I'm kind of like your mom, second mom, but then I'm your good girlfriend, and then I'm like, don't do that, or come on, sis, or let me send you this real funny reel. Like it's like I get to have everything
Yeah,
in one.
definitely.
it's such a special, it's such a special relationship, and I don't know how to even put into words just how much that means to me in general. It really, really does. And, this is what I'm sharing with you all is not something that Amaris has not heard before, but I wanted to share this because even if you don't have that relationship with your family, your friend, your niece, your nephew, or whatever, maybe this is your sign to step out and establish that relationship. Or maybe this is your sign to come back and say, you know what, I could have done better. Or maybe this is your sign to be like, you know what, let me tighten up. Let me call my good niece, my good cousin.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's all the things. But Amaris, I wanted to have you on my first episode because of the relationship that we have. But I have thoroughly enjoyed watching you evolve. And watching you evolve from being, I used to call her, y'all, my little lamb. That was my little lamb. And I remember she got to be probably about 4 or 5. And I was like, hey, my little lamb. And she's like, I'm not a lamb. I'm not a sheep. Don't call me that. I was like, oh, what do you mean? And so I just seeing how you've grown, but a few things I wanted to talk to you about. So first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And but I wanted to ask you a few questions because it's a lot of things that people may or may not know. You are, a pretty private person. However, you have shared some things publicly about your journey, becoming a mom, becoming a wife. Those are two things that, of course, stand out to me the most. And I would like to kind of discuss those things. And so, I'm going to let you introduce yourself or say what you want to say. And then I'm just going to ask you a few questions and we're going to jump right in.
Okay. Like she said, I'm the niece. My name is Amaris. Yes, I am the niece. The niece. That's why we want 2 E's. I am the niece. Okay?
Here we go.
I started the niece-nephew-dom for Mattia.
God.
But for real. I'm Amaris. I'm 30 years old. I can't believe this is the first time I'm saying it other than writing it somewhere on a form. I'm the whole 30. A whole 30. I'm a real adult. There's nowhere I can't go.
The real kind.
I've been married for 8 years. We'll be 9 in May. Yeah. I know, I was nuts. I got married at 21. I'm a mom to the most amazing 18-month-old I've ever met in my life.
Yes.
Here we go.
And we just getting started.
And it's what I'm saying. We've been on the podcast for 6 minutes, and I already got a frog in my throat. This is ridiculous. Okay, but I'm just enjoying life, honestly. I feel like she touched a little bit on my journey, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But I think a lot of my adult life was the journey, and so now on the other side of the journey, or on a different side, I guess we can say, a different season of my life and my evolution, I'm enjoying where I am.
Yes.
And I'm good here.
Yes.
So ask me something that doesn't make me cry.
Well, I first want to ask you about you getting married so young. Because first and foremost, you got a lot of scrutiny behind that. Because I'm going to let you tell your own story, but you got a lot of scrutiny behind that because you all were young. And, I must admit, I was one too who was kind of like, are you sure? Not because I didn't think you should get married, but because you were young and you always be, and when you love a person, you don't want them to feel like, because I know that marriage is, not like I feel like I'm in jail, because that ain't the case at all, but marriage is a serious commitment. It should be, for the way that we believe, a lifelong commitment. And so when you're so young, diving into something that's so concrete and so forever and so serious, it's like, you sure you don't want to live your life a little bit first? it wasn't even that we was like, oh, we didn't like him, because he had been around for years. It had nothing to do with that at all. Not for me. I can't speak for nobody else. You know, it had nothing to do with that, but it just was more or less like, you're so young, you have so much going on for yourself, you got so much life to explore and to just get into possibly. So, like, how did you, number one, how did you know that this is what you wanted for your life? And number two, how did you deal with the backlash? Because I'm sure there'll be people on here who, you know, may be questioning whether they should get married, whether they shouldn't get married, or even some of the same thing like scrutiny behind getting married, period. Like, because people are like, oh my God, I don't want to get married. That's too much. It's too much commitment. You know, even at 30 and 40 and 50. So at the age that you all were getting into, how old were you when y'all got engaged?
20.
20.
I was 20 and he was 23.
Wow.
Yep. So to answer your first question, which was, how did I know? Honestly, I know why I knew then now. But I don't know then why I was so, like, I didn't know then why I felt like this is what I was supposed to do at that time. It was a strong feeling. I was sure of it. I mean, it was the first time I went against my parents' wishes. Like, anything. I was a people pleaser. And of course, if I'm a people pleaser, my parents have been married at the time probably 30 years then. I'm pretty sure. If it wasn't 30, it was close. And so I grew up with what I feel like was a healthy relationship. I saw the good, the bad, the ugly. I felt like it was something that I was ready for. I felt like my husband, Charles, was somebody that could be in that fight with me. But I can't tell you that I knew then exactly why I felt so strongly about it.
I'm glad you said that, because people be trying to, like, mystify stuff. I feel like a lot of times, like, oh my God, I prayed and God showed me 3 times. Like, this is it.
No, that's not how God responds to my prayers. I don't know about everyone else in the world, but my prayers don't be like, here's the scroll, this is why. It's usually like, just trust me and find out.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. That's what it's been for me. Their second question was, how did I deal with the scrutiny? I think it was the beginning of me being confident in me.
Yes.
I think, and again, didn't know I was going to need that so early. But it was the beginning of my prayer life. Because you grow up in church and you believe God because your mom does and your grandma's a pastor and you're supposed to. Right. So you either believe it or you completely be lying. And you are living a completely opposite life of the family, you know, you grew up in. And so I feel like that was the beginning of my confidence. And because of that, I was like, you know what? I think this is right. And I think I trust myself enough to know that this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yes.
But I cannot tell you why. I couldn't. If you had asked me that at 21, I could not tell you why.
Yeah. Yeah. I love your honesty about that, because I think part of the issue that I see just in the lives of just different women I encounter is, number one, they're not confident within themselves. And when you're not confident within yourself, it's hard for you to make sound judgments about things that are concerning you. But once you step into a certain level of confidence, not meaning that you're going to have it all together, because certainly at 20 you didn't have it.
Absolutely not.
But it was an introduction to that part of who you needed to become and evolve into.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes we minimize those situations as a part of our life journey, because we think that, oh, we're either supposed to have it all together or have all the answers or kind of have things figured out. And the thing about your faith walk, it really is that. It's a faith walk. You're walking by faith and not by sight. Like, I feel like this is right. I'm confident that this is right for me. And this, if for no other reason, like, even if it don't work out for me, I need to do this to stand up for myself.
Absolutely. That's 100% how I felt. 100%. I have never gone against my parents' wishes for anything. It's honestly still to this day.
Yeah.
But that was probably the most that I can think of right now, maybe only time where I was like, y'all gotta trust me on this one.
Yeah.
And because I was trusting me, I required everyone else to.
Come on.
And so that was it. I mean, now looking back, it's a crazy question for you to have asked because I never even thought about it. I've thought about the backlash and like how I lived through it, but I never thought about like the why.
Mm-hmm.
I know why now.
Yeah.
I'm firm in my knowing why now.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely didn't know then.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I often say to people is I love the coin term, trust the process. Mm-hmm. But for me, I always take it a step further and say, trust your journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the process. So this is part of your journey, but trust the journey.
Mm-hmm.
That life, whether it's good, bad, and different. And I want to make sure that it's clear too, when we talk about you kind of defied what your parents' expectation was for you for that moment.
Right.
Not because this person was, because we don't want nobody out here thinking they can marry a sucker. We're not saying that.
No.
So we're not saying that.
No.
So it wasn't that they were against you marrying him because he wasn't a great person.
No.
It was more or less like I feel like they kind of share my same sentiments. Like,
absolutely,
you guys are young, just wait, what's the rush? Like, what we got, type situation. But I love that you were confident and no, this is almost like what I need to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's absolutely what I needed to do because like you said, Charles is, to me, honestly, Charles is a better person than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Just to his core. I mean, like, he doesn't have like and not that I'm malicious, but like he doesn't have a mean bone in his body. Like, not a bone, not a muscle, like nothing.
Be a little sarcastic with people.
Okay, but that's not mean. It's not. That's sarcastic. But I mean, like at his core,
that's very
he
true.
Never, like, he be upset when people be that's true. You thought I was being mean? Like, no.
That's very true.
I mean, he would literally give you the shirt off his back and walk outside in the cold.
All facts.
So, for just to make clear what you said, no, it was not the fact that he was not a good person. I was not defying my parents and going to hang out with a drug dealer. Absolutely not.
Right.
Like, Charles was a church-going child. His parents were married most of his life. He was still going to church. He still had a relationship with Christ. We both made this decision with Christ at the center of the relationship. So it wasn't... when I say I believed in myself, I believed in what I was hearing. Yeah. And I feel like he did the same. Of course, as you learn and grow, now I know that what I was hearing and that firm decision making was because that's what God was telling me to do. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't have told you that back then either. Yeah. But today, I 100% know. Yeah. Because it's like, sometimes, like you said, you think that people try to get deep and they try to be like, but God came to me in a dream one night. No. Mm-hmm. No, that's not what happened.
Right.
Not at all.
I do understand.
That's not what happened. And I think we both probably today feel like we don't know why back then, but we are sure of why now.
Yeah. I love that. It reminds me of the saying that I've heard so many times before, you want to begin with the end in mind.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I don't even know what this looks like today, but I can see what we can become, or what we potentially will develop into. And so that right there alone is kind of like a true testament of like, okay, I'm going to begin with the end in mind. Like, I see the end of the road, you know what I mean? And I see this beautiful relationship, blossoming and continuing to grow and develop and all of that. Excuse me. And just to be at that place. So this is the other thing I wanted to ask you about before we get into, where where you are currently. But even before, after you got married, before had my baby Wesley, even before that, like just seeing you evolve into and just becoming so much more confident and really owning who you are. I know my best friend and I were talking one day, and she was like, Amaris is really she stands up for herself. Like she ain't backing down. Like she gonna go ahead and do. And I'm like, yeah, she's a whole grown person. Because people don't like. How do you feel when people say? So this is what I want to ask you. Like sometimes, and I've seen this post like on social media, like stop treating me like the person you used to know. That person no longer exists.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? And I think that's so true for a lot of people. Like there are people that, truly have had a life change. And it doesn't mean that you was, living a ratchet life and now you holy and sanctified. But it's just I may not have had a voice. I may not have stood up for myself. Or you may have seen me always as the little girl.
Yeah.
And I think for me, just me, even with me being being an outsider, I feel like a lot of times people have seen you like, oh, that's little Amaris.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's little Amaris. Oh,
absolutely.
Amaris. And so it's like you almost having to fight for your voice to be like,
yes,
I am not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so how do you do that? And it's almost like, people will sign stuff respectfully. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you somebody who's I want you to speak to somebody who's trying to find their voice, trying to find their confidence, trying to find their lane. But, it's like one of those things where you need to step to the mic, but your hands are shaking. How do I get that hand to stop shaking and my voice to stop trembling? Walk somebody through what that looks like.
I had an answer until you said that. Because I still feel like I said, don't make me cry. Like you went.
I'm not trying.
I was ready. Okay, I was ready to answer your question, and then you was like, I don't know.
It's okay.
I think, seeing strong women around me, family or not, I think has helped a lot. I aspire to be someone who can speak clearly without the tremble in my voice, without the shaking of the hands. But I think some of it is because I don't take no and walk away. I no's don't go well with me. And so even if I'm telling myself the no, I still push past that. Some situations I face and I'm kind of like, you didn't have to end up here. And not in a bad way. Because sometimes you didn't have to be here is not bad. Sometimes I didn't have to be in, I teach a dance class. And of course at the end of, the year when we do our performance, when the girls do their performance or whatever, there's recognition. And that means I have to stand in front of the entire audience. And although I don't have to say anything, it took I've taught the class probably the last 9 years. It has taken probably up until this just past Christmas that I didn't feel the shaking in my hands. I didn't have to say anything. But I felt confident walking up on the stage. Like, I walked up, I accepted my recognition. I smiled. I looked out at the crowd. I waved, and I walked off the stage. And I feel like, for me, that was another one of those, like, you're confident enough to do this. Yes. You can do this. Yes. You're doing this. It's not that you can, like, it's happening.
It's happening.
But that's after 9 years of applause, 9 years of, I was technically trained in ballet, and I'm teaching at a Christian school. Anybody who knows me or anything about dance knows those two don't go together. People will say to me in a second, like, you do liturgical dance. No, I don't. That's not the same. And no pun to anyone who does, because it's, just like singing, it's a joyful noise. It's your praise, between you and God. But at the end of the day, I feel like when someone has been technically trained at something that they're doing, we need to talk about that. Yeah. Because that person put in the work. Yeah. And so, for me, though, I had to recognize I put in the work.
Yes, you did.
And so, I think that goes back to your question, how do I find my voice? In that particular realm, that's still hard. Finding my voice in front of people. Yeah. Even this podcast, like, I'm glad that I'm not on Zoom talking to my computer and I'm sitting in front of you, because if I was, I would be like, this is awkward. Like, I'm trying to get into content creating and everything, and it's like, this is weird. Like, there's no one there. But at the same time, to come back to your question, you asked about how I'm able to do that. The voice thing is coming. Yeah. The handshaking is gone.
Yes, come on.
So we're evolving. We're moving through moments, in different seasons of our life. But to find my voice in the family, like you said, your best friend, who's also a family friend of mine, that's hard. Mm-hmm. But this is a funny hard. That's why I said I can answer that question. Because you're right. I have been little Amaris. And I'm a people pleaser, like I said before. So I think as I started to do things, I guess you could say adult things, got married. But still everybody was like, oh, they're so cute. She got married. Mm-hmm. Like the people that weren't like, I don't know why she doing that. They was like, oh, that's so sweet. They love each other. That's so cute. She probably pregnant.
That part.
No, right. I was not.
Right.
But, it's been hard to be seen as an adult, even with my parents. My mom probably has been the best at growing with me. I haven't had much, like, hey, mom, like, come on now, I'm grown. I haven't really had, if any, honestly, I really don't feel like has been any with my mom. But even with my dad, I think sometimes it's harder to watch, especially now as a mom, it's harder to watch my son grow up. Yeah. It was harder for my dad to watch me grow up. So it became, I'm going to just be here and act like the growing up's not happening. Yeah. And I think subconsciously that happened to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Whether, like Mattia, you were gone.
Yeah.
Some of you were in college and then you didn't come home right away. And then when you came home, you was already married and you were living your own life. Although we still had a relationship, you were living your own life. And my life that was happening here, in your mind, was the same way it was when you left. Even though you knew when you came back, and it's not like you weren't a part of what was going on, you were distant. Yeah. So you didn't see it. Yeah. And I think that happened with a lot of people. But I see my family, like, most of my friends are like, you see your family every Sunday? Every Sunday. Okay?
Exactly.
Every Sunday.
Absolutely.
Judge your mother. Because I'm going to see my grandma, my 80-year-old grandma, every Sunday.
You better believe it.
Every single Sunday. My godmother, every Sunday. My mom. Like, it's a family thing. And so I think because I never left, I didn't go away to college. Nobody ever saw the transition.
That's true. That's good.
I was there all the time. It's like when you gain weight. Like, the people around you don't really see it because You were there. I saw you every day.
Right.
I watched you grow.
Right.
You know, but then later on, if you see somebody come around, they'd be like, "Ooh, she didn't."
Right.
Well, you was gone.
Right.
So you can see it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, when you leave and come back, you're expecting things to be like they were.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not. And it's a subconscious thing. I don't think anyone was doing it intentionally. But I do think that sometimes having a voice in those situations is the most important thing, because you don't have to be disrespectful.
Right.
You can just say, I don't want to do that thing.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Like, that's fine. I don't have to explain it.
Yeah.
You know, that was hard for me because I feel like I did have to explain it at first. But I think just if someone made a comment that was, to me, like they were talking to 12-year-old Amaris, I have to bring you up to speed. Because,
ma'am,
this is 30-year-old Amaris and 12-year-old Amaris and 30-year-old Amaris. Like, we not the same. For good and bad reasons. But we not the same. But no, I think the transition that a lot of people saw up close, people that weren't necessarily up close didn't see. And so when they came back, they were expecting things to be the same. And they weren't.
Yeah.
And now most people, heavy on the most.
Yeah, heavy on the most.
Have recognized that I'm not, you know, a teenager. I'm not the 21-year-old that got married. Like, I've been married for 8 years. That's almost a decade.
Exactly.
And I've lived a lot of life in those 8 years.
I have.
That I think for me tells me you 30.
Yeah.
But on the outside, when you weren't living that, you see 21-year-old Amaris.
Right.
Because, to be honest, I don't look much different. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
it's during that time, I feel like there were times where I looked different. But to go away at 21 and to come back at 30, you're expecting the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, I think, stand up for yourself. It's okay to say, no, I don't, that's not it. I don't want to do that.
Right.
I actually don't like that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I would not like to do that. I would like to do this way. With respect. Like you said. Respectfully.
Right. Exactly.
No. Get somebody else to do it. There are cousins and things that are, you know, back in the younger age.
Yes.
I'm not running to get your phone from upstairs. Like, I mean, that's an inside joke.
Right.
But I'm not gonna be doing that.
You like, but I'm not the 8-year-old. Like, I'm a whole grown person. Can you give me something to drink? No.
Ma'am, I drove here. No, in my car. It's in my name. No, ma'am. Go get your own cup. In fact, give me one too.
I'm so weak. So a few things that you mentioned, and that was so good. One of the things you mentioned was about it took you 9 years. This is your 9th year, and you're like finally at a point where you like, I'm doing this. I did that. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things that I think, even for me, that I feel like I'm evolving in is really giving myself credit for the things that I've done. Because it wasn't until these last few months that people, like, I've kind of put myself out there, like, okay, I'm going to be doing my podcast. I'm doing motivational speaking. You know, I'll speak at your church conference. I can facilitate a class. And initially I was like, oh, I need a resume. I need a bio. And then when I really started, like, listing out the things that I had done, I was like, wait a minute, sis. You got receipts. And it wasn't, because I think there's often that fine line between walking in humility and being confident and just like being overly like arrogant, I guess you could say, for lack of better terms. And so just trying to find that sweet spot where it's like, no, I'm in this place because I deserved it, because I've worked hard for it, for in whatever capacity that looks like. But I also I've done the work.
Yep.
And I need to own that. So
Yep.
that's why I can walk confidently as a speaker,
Mm-hmm.
because for so long I was silent for whatever reason, not because I did not talk,
Yeah.
but because I did not speak up for myself.
Yep.
So now that I really truly understand who I am, I will not be silent, because what I understand and recognize that me speaking out is not just me speaking up for myself, but I'm speaking up for all those other women who would love to have a voice, but who have not gotten to that place yet.
Yep.
I want to give them encouragement and inspiration that you too have a voice, and what you say and what you have to say matters and has validity and it has value, and that it is important and it makes a difference, and it does impact the lives of others, and people are appreciative of what you bring to the table.
Absolutely.
All facts.
Absolutely.
And so even when I thought about what you said about your dad, knowing the struggles that, your parents had, and just, when you all were born, and just, getting you all here. And I think sometimes, because I dealt with some infertility issues myself, when you do get into, which will lead us to our next question, when you've gone through those type of situations, it does make you want to stay in that I want to keep you as a child.
Absolutely.
Because you fought so hard
Mm-hmm.
to finally see your miracle manifested.
Yep.
And your blessing manifested.
Yep.
And the thing that you prayed for manifested.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see that, it's like, if I see you from a lens where you are grown up, I feel like I no longer have you.
Right. That's true.
So, and I refer back to a lot of things that I read, because I am a reading person, of course. I mean, not like other people aren't, but I read something one time that talked about how as we grow up, you don't want the person to grow up again, like I said, because you feel like you are going to lose that person.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like they'll no longer need me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even so much that I don't want to see you grow up, but I also have this yearning for you always to need me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get to a point where you grow up too much, then you ain't gonna need me no more. Then what is the purpose of my existence?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I think sometimes as parents, we have to be okay with allowing our kids to grow and develop,
Mm-hmm.
and be all that God has them to be, and allow them to walk their own path. And as we respect them as they evolve, they will always lean back.
Absolutely.
And always come back and appreciate the value that you bring to their life. And so I have to even learn that with my own kids. Like, okay, y'all getting older. I gotta, okay, you grown up. Oh Lord, somebody get me a tissue. I can't hang. Like for every day, I'm like, Lord, I feel like I'm a faint.
No, for real.
I can't say it'd be a lot.
For real.
But lastly, I want to talk to you about your journey becoming a mom, and I think that number one, I want you to tell your story. I'm not telling your story. But the thing about your journey becoming a mom is so inspirational to me for so many different reasons. But I think it lends to the power of being connected in social media,
Mm-hmm.
for number one.
Absolutely.
It also speaks to these situations happening, not just to people who is over the quote unquote fertile age.
Right.
It also speaks to just what this process looks like being a person of color.
Absolutely.
And I want you to, and you don't have to go through the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
but just share a little bit about your journey becoming a mom, and just touching on those three components that I shared, and the blessing that you have at the end.
Okay. Let's see. So we got married young. I was 21 and he was 23.
Mm-hmm.
He was 24. We got married in 2015. Just for all those who might be like, let me count back and see. It was 2015. It's 2024. This year it'll be 9 years. No. So we didn't really, we went through premarital counseling also. Premarital guidance is what it was called when we did it, and with our pastor. And there's questions such as when you want to have kids, and we both was like, 5, 6, 7 years, like that. We didn't want to get married because of children. Again, can't tell you why I was so sure of it back then, but we were like, 5, 10, whatever, no big deal. And then I had, of course I didn't want to get pregnant, so I got an IUD, and I ended up having issues, and so I had to get it taken out. And they were like, what do you want next? And I was like, I don't want nothing, because I don't want any more infections of any kind. Give me a minute. I'll come back, we'll circle back around.
We'll circle back.
In the new year. And so, I didn't have birth control, and I didn't get pregnant. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my worst nightmare. Because my mom and my husband's mom both had issues getting pregnant. Or maybe I should say both of our parents had issues getting pregnant. My mom was 31 when I was born, and my husband's mom was 40 when he was born. So clear that there were issues there. Not because of their age, but it's just clear that there were issues because of the time that they had been married prior to both of us being born. So for me, I was like, oh my gosh, something has to be wrong. Because, don't have sex because you ain't, you're going to get pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, I'm a whole married.
Right. Hey.
And we don't pray at night. Right. So, I mean, we do, but that's not what we do all night. So, I'm just kind of like, what's going on? So, time has passed. I went and got tested. We got married in 15, probably somewhere around the beginning of 2017. I went and got tested, and all my tests came back completely fine. Checked all the boxes. Like, stellar. I'm 23 years old. Yeah. Why wouldn't it be?
Why wouldn't it be? Absolutely.
And they're like, okay, well, we need to do your husband's testing. And I'm like, for what? Like, why? What you need to test him for? He fine.
Right.
Like, I'm the one not getting pregnant. And so many people go into it with that, which is why I had to start there. So many people think that it's always the woman. And in more cases than not that are coming up more recently, it's not always the woman. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's the man. But it's not just the woman. Infertility is not just the woman. It's, first of all, it takes two.
Right.
But it's not just the woman. So anyway, my husband went and got tested, and we thought there was a glitch in the test because we couldn't believe that there was a 0 sperm count. We were like, oh, no, that's not it. He's all in his head. He's like, nope, we'll do it again. We waited 3 months. It's now the end of November. So from the time I went was probably January to the end of November 2017. We went. He did the test again. They were like, yeah, your sperm count's still 0. So you probably should go to a urologist. We went. We left that appointment with a pamphlet for adoption, a sperm donor, and a support group.
And you were how old?
I was 24, and my husband was 27.
My Lord.
At 24 and 27, an African-American couple given pamphlets for adoption, sperm donors, and a support group, because you're never going to be able to do this. That's what we were told. A 20-minute doctor's appointment. It wasn't even extensive. 20-minute doctor's appointment. And I went back to work. We went on my lunch break. Charles was off that day. He came to pick me up. We went to the appointment. I went back to work. Numb as I have ever been in my whole life. And there have been a whole lot more numb moments. But that was the numbest I have ever been in my whole life. I don't remember doing anything else that day. I don't remember driving home, eating anything, nothing. And so anyway, like I said before, no's don't really work for me. And now I can say no's don't work for us.
Hey.
So, and my son is, no, don't work for him neither. But it's in his blood. So we move on, and now it's the beginning of 2018, and we are kind of in this space of we don't really know. Like, I'm now kind of researching on YouTube, bringing up social media, like you said. What are different options? they never even gave us the option of IVF because they said, no. Like, it's just no. There's no way. You have no sperm. You need an egg and a sperm. You don't have no sperm. No baby.
Wow.
For y'all. At 23, 24, and 27 years old, the rest of your marriage is going to be childless, is what they told us. Unless you get somebody else's, because you're not good enough. So that's what we heard then. You're not good enough.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Which, of course, opened up a whole Pandora's box of, is it really you? Is it really me? Do you really think, like, maybe I need to go back to the doctor. So I went back to another doctor. Again, all my boxes checked. Grade A, eggs, everything. I am wonderful. My uterus, everything. He went to another doctor. That doctor was so concerned that he ended up having to have a full sonogram in the office because they thought something was wrong with him per his blood work and what they saw.
Wow.
Something wrong, like cancer, something wrong. Serious something wrong. And so but that doctor was like, well, we have this surgery, it's called a microtesty. We can try this and, we'll see. And we took that and tabled it from 2018 until 2020. March 6th, 2020. I will never forget that date because it was the week before the world shut down for COVID. Yeah. And so we finally said, okay, fine, he's going to try the surgery. They were like, we probably won't find anything. Your insurance will not pay for it. This is experimental. So to the tune of $10,000, you can try this. Jeez, and maybe we'll find something or maybe we won't. And we were like, okay, there we go again. That was the beginning. That was the second time of it, the moment where we were like, no, this is what we're supposed to do. So we went in and they found 4 vials. You need a single vial of sperm for IVF. They found 4. After being told you'll never have your own children, they found 4 vials. So we get the 4 vials. We start doing IVF. We weren't able to do IUIs. I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but that's a intrauterine injection, which is when you do the IUI, which is kind of like you're being turkey basted essentially. Okay. So they put the sperm where it needs to go. Got it. Inside the woman's body though. IVF is where they take the eggs and the sperm outside of the woman's body and the male's body, put them in a dish, mix them up, let them rest, and put them back. All through this whole process, I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm researching on the internet, looking at people. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. They made it through that. I'm not going to do that. I knew. I don't know how I do, but I knew. That's not for me. Right. And that's exactly where we was at. So we did IVF a couple of times. I got pregnant one time. We finally told the family what was going on. So my mom knew, and his mom knew. On Mother's Day, after I had been pregnant for 3 weeks, so I was about 6 weeks pregnant. I had been pregnant for 6 weeks. We told the family, hey, this is what we've been going through. Matia was actually on the phone. Yeah. When we told her, because she wasn't here on Mother's Day. So we told everyone. It was great. And, I felt like it's finally going to be better. And before that, the Mother's Day before that was probably my hardest Mother's Day. And I couldn't even tell you why. But I woke up that morning, I couldn't get myself together. I mean, I was like boo-hooing, like hypervent by myself. No, like Charles was there, but I was in the bathroom. Like I couldn't get myself together. I never wanted to make him feel bad, like he was doing this to me. Right. And that morning, I sat on the side of the tub. And I heard God say, now I know it was God. Mother's Day will never be like this for you again. Come on. Jesus. And I was just like, this is hard. Like, I don't even think about next Mother's Day. Okay. It's 9 a.m. Like, I'm trying to make it to the end of today. And so that next Mother's Day, I was pregnant. 7 days after that, I lost that baby. But Mother's Day wasn't back. Right. And so we lost that baby. We went through everything. We didn't have to do a D&C. We were able to just pass the embryo naturally. But we moved on, and I was like, okay, let's do it again. And all the while, Charles was like, yep, sounds good to me. I think we should do it. I think this is a good idea. he always said, if you're willing, I'm gonna be right there.
Yes.
And so, moving forward to the next year, actually, that wasn't the next year. The end of that year, that was like May of 21, which was when I finally got pregnant. At the end of that whole bout, we were of course calling our insurance. Hey, we need to do it again. Blah blah blah. And Kaiser goes, no, you can't do IVF in the United States or anywhere anymore. We're not paying for it because you've used up all your instances for IVF. There's that no again. And I'm like,
God.
What?
You're like, are you kidding me?
What?
What do you mean?
No. Please. So, that didn't go well for me. And I dug real deep back in my YouTube research, and I found a couple that had gone out of the country to Barbados, and they had done IVF at a clinic that has a lot of experience with male factor infertility, which there's hardly any in the United States. And that's because men don't go to the doctor.
Yeah.
They don't find out.
Yeah.
There's no other reason for that. But so we found out about them, and that day I got off the phone with Kaiser, and I picked up the phone and I called Charles, and I was like, what you think about going to Barbados? And he said, let's do it.
Come on now with the support.
And I was like, this is crazy. Like, what? Fast forward, we spent 2 weeks. We went, and 2 days before we came home, we found out none of the embryos made it to day 5. Zero, none. You have nothing. Go back home. Don't collect $200. None of that. Go back home.
Oh my God.
And we got to the point where we were like, uh-oh. Now I heard God tell me this is what I was supposed to do. Like when I say he made a way, we had no debt. We went, spent 2 weeks, ate, enjoyed the beach. Beautiful.
Oh my God.
The whole thing. We are like, oh, we're definitely coming home with the baby. Like, this is what God told me to do. And 2 days before we come home, it's like, no. But that doctor said, do y'all want to come and have a meeting? We say, okay, fine. So we come and have a meeting. We sit, and she's like, I think if y'all are willing to try again, I know what I can do. And I'm like, okay. Let's go home and think about it. Get home. My dad, who, wasn't quite in on the whole Amaris being a grown-up, was like, I think I need to go back as soon as possible. And we were like, what you mean? Like, nah, we're going to go back in January sometime. Like, we went in September. We're going to go back in January, maybe sometime next year. Like, I can't take this right now.
Right.
He said, when they give you a date, take the first one, and I'm going to pay for it. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. He's like, no, I'm serious. You're going back as soon as you can go back. So in 8 weeks, we returned to Barbados. For 2 weeks, we went, and the process is going again, and both of our jobs allowed us to work from there. I mean, like, just the God in the whole thing is just...
Yes.
It's crazy.
Whew.
And so we went, we worked while we were there. We went to our treatments. We sat on the beach. We breathed in the air. We felt the sand in our toes. It was great. And we got to the point where they had put the embryos together, and they give you a reading every couple of days. And so we got to day 4, and she's like, oh, we're doing good. That was day 3. You're doing good. You have, 8, looks like we have 8 embryos, and, you're going to be good. I think this is the one. I'm like, okay, cool. I have been hearing 5. I don't know why, but I have been hearing 5. The next day she called and was like, we only have 3. And my heart sunk again. And I was like, oh God, here we go again. Like, we are really nuts to be out here doing this. This is just like,
oh my God,
the type of numb you have to be to do that anyway.
Exactly.
And then again,
right.
We could have been residents. We lived in Barbados for 60 days. And then here.
Just give me a house over here.
Exactly. Like, where Brianna live at? I'm about to go live in her house. Like, come on now. But no, so we're at day 3. Day 5, they called me back, and they were like, we're not even going to open them today. We're going to leave them in there, let them rest. Because they weren't doing good yesterday. Another day ain't going to hurt. So we just going to leave them alone. We ain't saying nothing today. We just checking in on you. How you doing? We all right. Day 6, she said, no, then one of those days she finally said, there's 5. And I was like, I knew I heard 5. So now I have hope because there's 5.
Come on, Jesus.
And I know that's what I heard.
Oh!
I know it because now I'm confident in what I'm hearing. At that point was when I knew that I needed to be married back then so we could make it through this journey here.
Come on.
So that when I heard that 5, I would have hope. So I heard the 5 and I'm like, great. We go to the appointment to get the transfer and she's like, we only have 1 and it's only 12 cells. The other ones died overnight. What? He said 5. He said 5 to me. The doctor said 5 to me. I don't understanding. What's going on?
Like, wait a minute.
I'm confusion.
Excuse me.
Like, what?
I just talked to you yesterday.
I was rejoicing. We was at the beach like, hey, we got 5 kids. We gonna have to come back and get the other ones. Like, yes, let's do this. We get there, and I'm laying on the table, upside down, pretty much. After they did the transfer, asking the doctor, so how soon can we come back to get the other ones? And are you sure they gone? And what do you think? And she's like, how about you make sure this didn't work first? And I'm like, all right, whatever. We going about our business. Throughout this whole process, the song Too Good to Not Believe. The version is the one with Brandon Lake and Tosh Cobbs. Every single time we had to do a surgery, a shot, and transfer anything, I always had it playing. And so I'm singing that in my head because we didn't have it with us at that point. But I'm singing it in my head as we're laying there waiting. We go to the beach after the rest. They tell you to rest. Charles is upset. His feelings are hurt. Because he's like, I can't believe we did this again. I can't believe, we're here again. Yeah. And we can get his perspective later. But that's just what we were talking about while we were there. And we get on our plane and we come on back home. And I proceeded with life as normal. And it was just like, I can't be concerned.
Yeah.
We didn't do the 2-week wait thing where you're checking every day and this is supposed to be happening. I didn't check no times. I didn't take a test at all. I've taken more pregnancy tests probably than the people that's out there living their best life. I can promise you. I was like, I'm not taking no pregnancy test until they call me and say, take it today.
Right.
And I woke up that morning, December 23rd, and I took that test and it said positive, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Oh my God. I called the doctor and told them, and they were like, great, this sounds great. Let's just, we're moving in the right direction. You're all good. Charles wakes up, he sees the test, and he's like, oh my God, are you serious? He's crying. I'm feeling bad because I ain't crying. I'm like, what's wrong with me? I must be pregnant because what's going on?
Enough, sis.
Child. I was like, this is a mess. So we get it all together. We were coming to visit Mattia. Yes. And Brian and the kids for Christmas. And so we came on down here. I was pregnant. I was thick too. My face is all fluffy. I was pregnant and I was like, dang, ain't nobody, I can't tell nobody. I think Mattia I don't know if Mattia or Grandma, one of them gave me my injection that day.
Yeah.
We hadn't told anyone yet that we were pregnant till right after Christmas. And then we didn't tell the family till February. But honestly, Mattia said don't go through the whole thing, but I can't. I because it's too good. It's too good. Yeah. Even today, like I look back when I talk about it, like it's funny because I'm like, you are nuts. Like the nuts you got to be to fly out the country in the middle of a pandemic.
Right, in the middle of a pandemic, and then do it twice
in 8 weeks. That part. It's not like once in January, once in December. No, we talk about September, the end of September, and the beginning of November. Like you talk about 8 weeks.
Come on.
But it's honestly, it's too good to not believe what God can do.
Yes.
With your yes. Other people say no. But I say yes to God.
Yes.
And I think, there we go again, back at me hearing God, like, I know what I hear. Yeah. Every time. I don't always believe it.
That part.
But I know what I heard.
That part.
And that has been, since then, that has probably been my driving force. Because every time I've heard something, it comes to pass. So my confidence comes from what I heard.
Yeah. I love it. It's such a beautiful story. It is such a beautiful story. It is a story of perseverance. It is a story of evolution.
Yeah.
You evolving into a person who was much more confident in not only yourself but in your relationship with God.
Absolutely.
And more confident in the relationship you have with your husband.
Absolutely.
Because that takes a different level of trust.
Yes.
And dependence.
Yes.
Because the way the society has things set up, it'll make you think, I'm going through all this. And you hear so many stories like, I would have went through all this. And especially, I think, I wanted you to share your story because of all of the reasons that you shared. But because people don't always understand even the emotional and the mental anguish that you go through.
Yeah.
As a person.
Yeah.
And the dependence on your partner through the process.
Yes. Yes. Because we were showing up.
Yes.
Numb.
Yes.
We were showing up to work. We were showing up for our family members. We were at birthday parties. We were planning baby showers. We were going to weddings, seeing people get pregnant accidentally. Like, we were showing up as if this wasn't happening. And so when we finally, told everyone, we announced we were pregnant, people were like, you what?
Exactly.
You've been at work every day.
Exactly.
Charles been at work acting up, being goofy. I've been showing up with the kids. And I work at a school.
Right. So you're around kids all the time.
I'm watching parents gawk at their children at these events that I'm teaching dance at. Right. These parents are like, oh, my baby. And I'm like, I gotta go. Yeah. It got to a point where I couldn't take it. I would come out and watch the girls dance, and I would go back into the dressing room with them. I couldn't watch the rest of the show because I couldn't take it. Yeah. And once I got to the point where I was like, God, I don't care how you do it. Yeah. You can drop a child that we need to adopt. We'll be foster parent. I don't care. And even during the pregnancy, like most people know, I wanted a little boy. I am boy mom through and through. Through and through. Sneakers, I got locks, like, you know what I'm saying? I borderline got a men's wedding band. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I am 100% boy mom through and through. I can't wait to be on the soccer field. But I was convinced that after God gave me that blessing, he couldn't have heard my heart when I said I wanted a little boy. So I was convinced. Yeah. At the gender reveal, I was like, I know it's going to be pink. I already know. So I had intentionally told my best friend, I don't want pink and blue. We want green and gold or something. I don't know what it was. Whatever it was. Right, I was like, I don't want to see pink. Like, I was convinced it was a girl. Wesley's name is Wesley because it was an either or name from the beginning. And I was just like, you know what? I know it's a girl, so whatever. And I opened my eyes, and that confetti was green, and I lost it. I was like, I can't believe.
God, you gave me the cherry on top.
Not to mention this with this man who I'm never going to be able to have children with, and that little boy looked just like his daddy.
I mean, splitting.
Well, I ain't had nothing to do with it. Other than his attitude.
No, man.
Lord help me.
No kind of
But that little boy looked just like his daddy.
Right. All of that.
So all them no's.
All of those no's.
I said yes. And here we are.
Yes. I love that. This has been such a great conversation. I hate that we have to put a pin in it because I definitely want to have you back because there's so much more for us to uncover, discover, and continue to talk through and talk about. But I'm so grateful that this was my first podcast.
I feel so special.
This is my first, and I always tell people that Amaris was always my first heart, my first love. Anybody who's close to me, like if I say anything, even now, the girls at the salon will be like, "Oh, you going to Maryland? Oh, you going to see your niece, aren't you? You going to see that your nephew?" Absolutely.
I can't.
Because I'm just so, it was only befitting that you would be my first guest. I'm so grateful for what we share. I'm so grateful for you being vulnerable, being real, being raw, and sharing your story. I know that it will encourage so many people. And as we continue with this podcast, I want you all to know what to expect. And what to expect is real, raw, vulnerable conversations with real everyday people who are dealing with real life situations, but who have chosen to show up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Who have chosen to say, life may have given me lemons, but I don't care what and how many times I have to be squeezed. I will become lemonade.
Absolutely.
I will evolve and develop and be all that God has called me to be. And so for that, I am extremely grateful to be able to use this platform as an avenue just to encourage and uplift those who will listen and hear this podcast. So if you all will do me a favor, make sure you are subscribed, make sure you like, and make sure you leave us a review and let us know how much you enjoyed this. And don't forget to share it with your friends and your loved ones. You know, there are many women and men, families who are going through these situations that we, of course, tapped in this during this podcast. And this may be the encouragement that they need to get over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody knows that going through an IVF journey, going through, you know, the walk of finding my voice and being confident, the walk of, I know I need to make some decisions, but people may say I'm too young or I'm not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Those are real things that people are going through. And this may be the podcast that changes their perspective and that the light bulb comes on to let them know that, yes, I can do this and yes, I can make it. Mm-hmm. So please don't be stingy with this. Make sure you share it out to all of those that you know and love. And until next time, we'll see you on the other side. And always remember, keep evolving. Thank you again for tuning into Evolving Perspectives. Remember to like, subscribe, download, and share with your friends and family about our episode that releases every single Monday. And always remember to keep evolving. Until next time, be easy.